The 23rd of May, Rabbi Furst, Parsha Hashavua with Rashi, Behar.
Oh, let me go get it.
Behar and Bukuchosai. We have a double Parsha this week.
Right.
Two Parshas this week. Bezos Hashem. Bezos Hashem. All right. First, okay. Let's start by asking if there are any questions to deal with to begin with. We can start with any questions. If not, we'll go to what I'd like to point out.
No questions for me.
Okay. So let's start with Pasuk Ches, Perek Chavav, Pasuk Ches. It's in Parshas B'Kochosai.
Kaf Vav.
Yeah, actually, let's start from Pasuk Vav. Chav Vav Vav. We'll start from the beginning of the Parsha here.
Okay, it says Sheni.
Yes.
V'nasati shalom ba'aretz ushechavtem ve'ein macharid v'hishbati chaya ra'a min haaretz v'cherev lo sa'avor be'artzechem. Let's see. I will provide peace in the land, and will lie down with none to frighten you. I will cause wild beasts to withdraw from the land, and a sword will not cross your land.
Let's see Rashi here.
Okay. I will provide peace. Perhaps you will say, here is food, and here is drink. But if there is no peace, there is nothing. In answer, the verse says, after all this, I will provide peace in the land. From here we see that peace is as weighty as everything else combined. And so it says, he makes peace and creates everything.
So okay, let's try and analyze Rashi a little bit here. Right? That let's see that this Rashi is really making a connection to the previous pasuk, which is pasuk Hey. Let's back up and read pasuk Hey. We'll get a better picture of what Rashi is referring to, because there's a connection between what Rashi's saying in pasuk Hey.
All right, you want me to go back and read Hey?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's see. V'hisig lachem daish es batir uvatir yasig es zara va'achaltem lach mechem lasova vi shavtem laveten be'artzechem.
The betach, the shavtem, the betach, the artzechem.
Oh, the betach, not the belly. Let's see.
Right.
The threshing will overtake vintage for you, and the vintage will last until the sowing. And you will eat your bread to satiety, and you will dwell securely in your land.
Now,
So Rashi says, the threshing will overtake the vintage for you, for the threshing will be plentiful, and you will be busy with it until the vintage. And you will be busy with the vintage until the time of the sowing. You will eat your bread to satiety. He will eat a bit, and it will become blessed in his innards.
right.
Okay?
Now,
So,
Rashi doesn't explain the last phrase of the pasuk. V'shavtem lebetach ba'artzichem.
right, you will be secure in your land.
Right. Now, so let's reread our Rashi in pasuk Vav in contrast and connect what Rashi is saying in pasuk Vav to pasuk Hey.
Okay, so yeah, you're saying very nice in Pasuk K, you got all this stuff, but that could lead to war. You could end up having your neighbors be jealous of you because you got all this produce and they start attacking you. And
Right.
what good is it? So he's saying that I'm going to give you peace. I'm going to make sure that you'll be secure in your land. Nobody's going to come and attack you.
Right. But we already we already had that promise made to us in pasuk K already, correct?
Yes. Well,
So
let's see. Yeah. You'll dwell securely in your land covers everything.
I would think so, right? Unless
But why is it wasting words?
that's well, good. That's that's something we have to try and figure out. You're right. If it already said in pasuk Hey, after all the blessings of the food we're going to have, the wine we're going to have, so we have food, we have wine, so life is good. I like to say, well, maybe it's going to be so good people become jealous of us. So it says at the end of Hey, don't worry, Shavtem betach ba'artzichem. No problem. You can rest assured and be secure as you dwell in the land.
But
So
there's a problem.
yeah,
Maybe this is going to be related to the answer. Um, we're so busy. How are we going to learn Torah?
that's another question. The bracha in Pasuk K seems to be saying we're going to be so busy, one crop is going to lead to the next crop. Well, that's very good if you're interested in getting a lot of food. If you like to take a break and learn Torah, so it doesn't seem to be conducive to that.
Now it does say that there'll be a blessing in the stomach, according to Rashi, and that's that's going to make it so that's easier for us, so we can do more. We can do less work because we don't need to gather so much because it's gonna bless in our stomach anyway. But it says both.
Right. So let's hold your question for about the question about Bittul Torah. I was thinking that, well, all right, we can give uh, if I'm not mistaken, the Gemara in Brachas that the Machlokas Rabbi Yishmael that Rabbi Yishmael says that if we learn Torah properly, so other people are going to be doing the work for us. I mean, it could be this pasuk could be understood in two ways. If we're learning Torah properly, so we're going to have such an abundance of food, as Rashi says, that the crops run in from one to the next. What's going to be? There's going to be no time to learn Torah. No, but again, if we're going to be learning Torah, so that also will guarantee us that there'll be other people available to do our work for us.
Okay, so in other words, the non-Jews are gonna come into our employ, and
Uh,
we pay them, and they do all the harvesting for us. So we're learning Torah, and they're doing the work.
that's right. That's right.
Okay, I can hear that.
Yeah, that's the way. That's one of the explanations of the Gemara in Brachos. So, see, see again. So it says, "Shavtim betach ba'artzachem, and nasati shalom ba'aretz, and there'll be shalom in the land." I mean, that seems to be. It seems to be that shalom is a higher uh, level than simply being shavtim bebetach. Shavtim bebetach. Okay, you're dwelling securely. Dwelling securely. Um, but let me suggest this. Okay, it could be that you're dwelling securely, but it means you may need to have a lot of security. Right? You may need to uh, have a standing army. You may have to have all kinds of security devices, right? But it's not yet shalom. Shalom is complete, absolute perfection, right?
Actually, you just made me realize that's a good description of what we have now. We're very secure because we've got the IDF, and we've got the all the anti-missile missile systems protecting us, but we're certainly not having peace.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. It's for betach. You know, yeah, shavtim betach is one level. Okay, I mean but it's far from an ideal situation, right?
Right.
So that might be an explanation. And so therefore the second pasuk comes and says that there'll be shalom. That's going to be that's going to be a state of real perfection, of real no cares, no worries, no enemies. Shalom. Very nice, very nice. I think we can say clearly like this. Betach, what does it mean betach? You're secure. You're secure from something, right? So that means you do have enemies. You do have threats, but you're secure from the threats, right?
Right.
But if you have shalom, shalom means there's no threats. No threats exist. It's a whole different dimension. I think that's what the pasuk is trying to indicate to us. I mean, there are different levels, right? There's a level of being betach, but so secure, okay, but that means that there are in fact threats. There are in fact uh, things that you need to be protected against, right? But if there's shalom, there's no need for protection even. It's a much higher. It's a different dimension entirely. It's a whole different way of life. Like I heard recently, it was making a point that uh, the state of Israel is the only country in the world that requires, according to law, that you have to have a bomb shelter and on your premises. So that's not very inviting, is it? Right? Uh,
Not at all.
excuse me.
I said, no, it's not inviting at all.
Yeah. Uh, so like I say, when I hear those kind of things, I say, well, there should be a public law. There should be mezuzahs on every door and every doorway in Eretz Israel. That would change things. If there was mezuzah on every door and every doorway in Eretz Israel, things would change quick. That's the kind of public law we have to have. And then
Right.
you wouldn't need bomb shelters. But so I think that's a good point. I think you touched on that point very well, Lou. That betach is one level. It's okay. It's good, but it's not the greatest, right? Doesn't indicate that there's shalom. So then the pasuk continues on, Nasati shalom ba'aretz. Now place shalom in the land, and that's I think what Rashi's coming to tell you, right? That it's going to be even more. Shema told him, maybe you'll say, oh, I'm eating and I'm drinking, and therefore, amen, shalom ain't klum. What do I care if I'm eating and drinking? If I don't have shalom, there's nothing. But see, this is where the question. This is where the question can be developed. See, Rashi says the way Rashi puts it, Shematamru. Maybe you'll say, right, that I'm eating and I'm drinking. I mean, like the pasuk said, I'm eating and drinking. And however, im ain't shalom, ain't klum. I don't have shalom. I don't have anything. So what happened to the betach? What happened to the betach? Bet betach is nothing. Is also nothing. Could be. Could be. Maybe that's exactly what the pasuk is trying to tell us. Even if you can have security, but if you've got your enemies, and you have to make security arrangements, and I'll make sure that there's security arrangements, but yet you still have enemies. So what do you really have?
Actually, it seems like it's a bit of a contradiction because
Yeah,
6 says, I will provide peace. And 7 says, you'll pursue your enemies. Well, if we're pursuing our enemies, we don't have peace.
right. Well, that's that's gonna so that's in Pasuk Zion, right? That's in Pasuk Zion, right?
Right.
Right. So based on that observation, I think we have to say that really the Torah is describing various different scenarios.
Right.
And since right, the whole point of this parsha, right? Um, let's go back to Pasuk Gimel, the very beginning of the parsha.
Let's see. Im bechuchosai telechu ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru va'asisem osam. If you will go in my statutes and observe my commandments and perform them, Rashi says, if you will go on my statutes, one might be able to think that this refers to fulfillment of the commandments. When it says, and observe my commandments and perform them, see that fulfillment of the commandments has been stated. What then do I maintain is meant by, if you will go in my statutes, that you should be laboring in the Torah. And observe my commandments. Be laboring in the Torah in order to observe and to fulfill that which you learn, as it says, and you shall study them and you shall observe them to perform them.
So you see from Rashi that the whole um, chain of events is based upon our learning Torah. So now I think what you can understand these psukim to relate to us in the following way, that obviously the level of learning Torah is uh, there's no um, standard of that. Obviously, it's a variable. Learning the type of the quality and the quantity of Torah, right, that'll achieve the all these things to happen, right? That obviously is a variable. It's not a constant, right? Since it's a variable, so these things will become more pronounced depending on the level of Torah that's being learned, right? So on one hand, you can have the level of betach, you can have on the other hand the level of sholom, right? You could have the level of all the land giving its produce and the land not giving its produce, right? So these are all various different levels that can be depicted based on the level of the Torah that the Klal Yisrael is learning at any given point in time, and that could definitely very well vary from even from moment to moment, day by day, month by month, year by year. Okay. So now going to Pasuk Zion, right?
Zion. Zion. Oh, yeah, you will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. That's the contradictory one. So you're saying it's just another scenario.
Um, yeah, that's right. It could be a different, based again on the level of the amount and the quality of the Torah that's being learned. This could be another scenario.
So that again seems to be what's happening right now. We're being extremely successful in the war. For example, when we attacked Iran, we didn't lose anybody. We didn't lose one plane.
Right.
That's kind of amazing if you think about it. They're a major power.
Yeah, to a certain extent. On the other hand, we're not really eliminating our enemies. Well, I don't know what we really accomplished. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow things so much, so I can't really speak as if I know anything about what's really going on. That, I mean, yeah. Um,
Well, I mean, we can be very successful, but there's 1.5 billion Arabs in the world or Muslims in the world. So
Yeah,
be very
yeah,
successful, but it's a drop in the bucket anyway.
yeah. I mean, you need a lot of bullets to kill all of them, right?
That's right. We're not gonna kill all of them. So um, it's hard to really assess what Hashem has got in mind here.
Well, yeah, that's always our job to understand what see the when you look at these kind of situations. So I mean, so okay, like just what we're seeing these levels is there's a level of betach, as we pointed out very nicely. It's betach means okay, there's security, and let's say even the security is pretty good security, but you can't unless Hashem is backing you and wanting it to work. You can't work. Someone was telling you about something happened in Washington D.C. with the two Israeli um, uh, diplomats or something like that. I don't know exactly. He didn't go into details, but one thing he did mention that was supposed to be a very highly secure situation over there, but yet nevertheless it didn't seem to be foolproof.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I read about that this morning.
yeah. So and again, I didn't follow the details, but what I was told what was surprising was the level of or the level of the lack of security. Meaning, even though it was supposedly a secure situation, but obviously wasn't effective.
Right,
So betach, yeah, right. So we see betach is it's good. Betach is good, but it's far from ideal, right?
right,
But shalom is the absolute perfection. That's the ideal. That's the perfection of the um, person in his behavior and in his surroundings. So yeah, and then we have another level, Rod Fehem as Yovehim, right? So you're gonna in this case you have to chase after your enemies. Right? You have to chase after them. So so that's always that's not so great. It's not you know unless you're a member of the French Foreign Legion. It's not fun chasing after enemies. You want to stay home. You want to be with your kids and your family, right? Wants to go chasing enemies. You know,
right.
like I said,
Exactly.
if you're in the French Foreign Legion, so okay. But other than that, most people prefer to stay home with their families. Why not? So, so that's not such a it's it's a level of success, but it's certainly not far from ideal. Right?
Right.
Um, okay. Let's continue. Let's look at the. Let's okay. Let's review Pasuk Zion, and they'll see the Rashi's there. We'll continue on.
Zion. Okay. Let's see. Zion. Uh, let's see. Ur daftem es oivechem v'naflu lifnechem lecharev. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. Before you by the sword, Rashi says, a man by the sword of his fellow, i.e., by the sword of his comrade in arms. Um, so I'm not sure what he's saying here. Saying that that it will be his sword that will kill him?
That the naked, they'll fall from before you by the sword. They'll fall from before you by the sword. Lecherev ish becherev reyehu. No, he's talking about how are they going to be dying? How the enemies are going to be dying? They're going to die themselves by their own swords of their friends.
Right. Yeah, the footnote says they're like falling over each other as they run away.
Hmm. Right. You've had situations like that. They panic. The enemy panics and they
Right.
kill more of themselves. Kill more of themselves than the enemy kills them. Also, there's a there's also a the I once read about the Battle of Waterloo. You probably heard about the Battle of Waterloo.
I've heard about
So
it. I don't know much about the details.
yeah. So anyway, the battle started. It was a one, as far as I understand, it was a 1 day battle, and it was getting late, very late in the day, and so the French troops led by Napoleon, they were making an advance on the British, and the British were behind the ridge. They were on the other side of the ridge, and the French troops were advancing to the ridge, and so the British troops um, uh, fired at the advancing French troops, and so the French troops were caught somewhat of surprise, and they started a panicked retreat. Um, so what was happening? The French artillery that was pounding the British, so they found themselves shooting into the French troops that were retreating. So they were killing themselves. Yeah, yeah, these things happen.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's seven. Should I go on to eight?
Yeah,
Okay, eight. Viradfu mikem chamisha mea umea mikem revava yir dofu v'naflu oivehem lifnehem lecharev. So 5 from among you will pursue 100, and 100 from among you will pursue 10,000. And your enemies will fall before you by the sword. Rashi says, 5 from among you will pursue, meaning the weak who are among you, and not from the mighty who are among you. What does that mean? Let's see. From 5 from among you will pursue. 5 of the weak ones from among you will pursue 100 of them, and not from the strong ones.
right. Now I'm not sure if there's anything in the actual pasuk which indicates this, right? And they'll say Radfu Mekem Kamisha Mea. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but Rashi's telling you this is even the weakest of us will have the ability to cause the enemy to flee. Okay.
So 5 from among you will pursue 100, and 100 from among you will pursue 10,000. Is this correct calculation? Should not have said 100 from you will pursue 2,000, but you could not compare a few who perform the commandments of the Torah to many who perform the commandments of the Torah. So the ratio expanded.
Right. Right. We see what's going on. If you look at the pasuk, right, the pasuk it's very. I mean, it's actually it's screaming out the pasuk that you should explain it because if the first case was right, Chamisha Mea will flee right from one, right, so 500 will flee from one, and Mumea became so from 100 of us. So according to that cheshbon, right, if one causes 500 to flee, so 100 should cause um five 5,000 to flee.
50,000.
50,000 to flee, right? But nevertheless, it says Ravava. Mumea became Ravava, much more.
Right.
So so that's the point that Rashi's making here, that don't think that when you have one Jew doing a mitzvah, the the effect is like that. And if you have more, right, don't think it's going to be a forgot what they call this, what it's called. It's going to be uh, corresponding increase. It's not a corresponding increase. It's an exponential increase.
Proportional is the word I think you want.
Ah, thank you, very good. Proportional. It's not a proportional
Right.
increase. It's an exponential increase. Yeah.
Or you could say it's nonlinear.
Oh, very good. That's even better, right? Nonlinear. Right.
Okay, so and your enemies will fall, etc., says Rashi. This means that they will fall before you, unlike the way of the land, i.e., in an unnatural manner.
Mm. Unnatural manner, right? It's not going to be. Don't think it's going to be simply um, uh, natural. It's going to be unnatural. I told you at least once the what happened. I was once in a cab. First night Hanukkah. This is going back many years ago, a good 30 years ago. I was once in a cab after lighting Nere's Hanukkah. So there was a Hasana. So I was going to. A friend of mine was getting married, so I took a cab to the Hasana. So we got to talking to the driver. I asked him, "Did you like the Hanukkah yet?" And he said, "Yeah." And by the way, it's a good idea if you're out and around during the days of Hanukkah, especially the nights of Hanukkah. It's a good idea to ask the bus drivers, ask the cab drivers, whatever, if they're lit, because sometimes they get busy with their businesses and activities. They forget to light. There's a polite reminder you can give them. You never lose out by helping another Jew do a mitzvah.
Right.
So I got to talking with this cab driver. I was talking about the in the Al Anisim for Hanukkah. We say that the Kadosh Baruch Hu brought the Rabin Biyad Miatim. That Kadosh Baruch Hu brought the many into the hands of the few, right? Actually, very few. As we were learning Hanukkah time, maybe even a minion, maybe just a little bit, maybe 13 of this Matisyahu and his sons caused the greatest of the enemy's armies to flee and to die in the battlefield. So there were many that were dying by the hands of the few. So he said, "I want to tell you a story." He said, "Okay, you want to tell me a story? I'll listen to your story." So so this cab driver said that in the 19 um, Yom Kippur War, in the Yom Kippur War, he uh, he was in the army in the Yom Kippur War, and his command was a platoon that was the vanguard uh, spearhead of the Israeli army in the Sinai. So he was the commander of this platoon that led the way of the Israeli army into Sinai. And so he was telling me that when they were going through the desert, and so they came to a crest in the hill, and when they came to the crest in the hill, they looked down onto the desert floor, and instead of being its normal sand white, it was black. The whole desert floor was black that they saw in front of them. What was it black from? Because the Egyptians, their uniform is apparently black. So there was the whole Egyptian army, whatever the Eighth Army, I forgot the number which that was. The Eighth Army of the Egyptians was there in the desert, and they were coming straight at them, the whole army. And here they're only this one platoon, 20 guys or whatever. He's the vanguard platoon of the Israeli army, and they're headed head-on collision to the whole of the Egyptian army. So he and he gets to his commander, to his base command, and he says, "This is the Egyptian army is here. This location. Send air power. Just send the airplanes and take care of them." So 2 minutes later, you know, they see one Israeli plane. That's all they could to free up. They could only free up one Israeli plane to make an attack on the whole of the Egyptian army. So he said when he saw that, like he felt, that's the end of us. So he said, so this one Israeli plane, he said it fired one missile into the center of the army. Yeah, and all of a sudden there was an explosion of fireball. The whole desert floor turned into a fireball, and the Egyptians were being thrown up into the ground, from the ground up to the sky and down again, and one big fireball. And it sent all these Egyptians that were still alive, sent them running back to Egypt. And eventually what happened was the Israeli army came and surrounded them. That was the whole big thing, that they had surrounded the army, and the question was, were they supposed to kill them out or let them return to Egypt or whatever? Anyway, that whole thing, political thing after that. But so he said, yeah, you think that it's just in Hanukkah time. Hashem gives the rabbim, the many, into the hands of the few. It happens. It happens. Even I saw it with my own eyes. Because what happened was, and just we're talking about that it was unnatural, like we saw, and it really was unnatural. But there was a little bit of a nature to it, because see how it worked was, he was explaining to me that the Egyptians were so packed together. They were like, standing shoulder to shoulder. They all packed together. So when the Israeli missile hit the middle of the Egyptian army, so it set off the explosion. And then since they were loaded down with ammunition, so all the ammunition started going off on them, right? So the whole thing set off a chain reaction of all the ammunitions that they were wearing on their bodies and whatever, carrying whatever it was. And so therefore the whole thing became one tremendous big fireball, and that's what eventually turned the tide of that battle, because otherwise they would have been far outnumbered. And so he said, this take cab driver was telling me, yeah, it happens even in our times, that the few can even be victorious over the many. Okay, let's go a little further. And so there's the main point that Rashi's making here. Don't think that when one person learning Torah, or two people learning Torah, don't think that it's a linear progression of the effect of a person's Torah. No, when he's learning with other people, that it's going to be very exponential. The consequences of many people learning Torah, many people doing the mitzvahs, to just a few individuals. Okay, let's see further.
Okay, we're up to 9 now, right? Tet.
Yeah.
Ufa Nisi Alechem V'Hif Resi Eschem V'Hir Besi Eschem Vaha Ki Mosi Es Brisi Itchem. I will turn to you, I will make you fruitful and increase you, and I will establish my covenant with you. I will turn to you, I will turn away from all of my concerns in order to pay your reward. Mashal Lama Hadavar. What can this matter be compared to? The Melech, to the king. Shishavar Poalim V'chulahu, who hired workers, etc. Kida Isa B'Toras Kohanim. In accordance, no, as stated in the Torah's Kohanim.
So let's then step back. Let's review and summarize this Rashi here.
Okay, so when it says, I will turn to you, Hashem is saying, I'll turn away from all my concerns, which of course is a metaphor, to pay your reward. It's like when we say, Hashem, remember us. I don't really know what that means. Hashem doesn't forget. So same thing here. Hashem doesn't get so involved in his concerns that he gets that he loses his ability to do something.
Right. I mean, obviously, Kadosh Baruch Hu's, there's no concept of multitasking by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is infinitely powerful, infinitely great, and doesn't have the limitations of physical energies and physical capabilities. Right. So there, if that's the case, so what in fact is Rashi trying to point out? Hashem's going to, so to speak, turn from all his activities.
Yeah, what does that mean? What can this matter be compared to? To a king who hired workers, etc., as stated in Torah's Kohanim. There's a footnote that says the king hired many workers. There was one worker there who had worked for a long time. The workers went to collect their wages, and this worker went with them. The king said to that worker, my son, I turn to deal with you. These other young men worked little for me, and I pay them little, but I have a substantial account to settle with you. So too, Israel in this world requests the reward from Hashem, and the other nations of the world request their reward from Hashem. Hashem says to Israel, my son, I will turn to deal with you. These other nations of the world work little for me, and I pay them little, but I have a substantial account to settle with you. This is why it says, I will turn to you. God has no limitations and need not turn from one thing to another. The Torah nonetheless uses this language to indicate how great is a reward in store for Israel, as if God would have to free himself from other concerns in order to deal with Israel.
I think it's pointing out, meaning even though the truth is that a Baruch can this can do all things at all times and in the greatest infinite possible way possible, if it would be what we have done through our commitment, Torah and mitzvahs, what we've accomplished, right, through our Torah and mitzvahs, the mashal is telling us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu views our efforts in Torah and mitzvahs so greatly that it's as if we should spend and receive the rewards as if they're so great that even an infinite, all-powerful being would have to, so to speak, devote specific time and energy to give us our rewards. They're so great, right? But that's just an indication of how great our rewards actually are. I think that's the point in Rashi here. Okay, very good. All right. A few minutes. Let's see. Shall we go one more pasuk maybe?
Uh, did I finish the Rashi?
Let's see.
I don't think so. I will establish my covenant with you,
Okay.
a new covenant, unlike the first covenant, which you annulled by the golden calf, but a new covenant which will not be annulled, as it says, and I will enter into with the house of Israel and the house of Judah a new covenant, unlike the covenant, etc.
Mhm. Okay. So that this actually needs time to go into this fully. We have to understand what happened at the Chet Ego. Yeah, what happened by Yehuda? What was the original bris and what was the new bris? What's the difference between them? Right?
Right.
But yeah, okay, we won't be able to go into that right now. All right, but very good. Fine.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you,
Lou.
Mayor.
Have a
See
good
you both.
Shabbos.
You should have a very good Shabbos.
Baruch Tiyah Meir. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you
Yes.
too. Be well. Shalom. Bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Shalom. Bye.